Here we are. Are you seeing that now? Of
Yes, thank you.
course. All right. So as I was mentioning, we've got the tasks here since I know we couldn't see this a second ago, but it'll have your employees. It'll have the tasks that are assigned to them. If you want a deeper look at which tasks these are, you'll just navigate to the tasks page, and then you'll be able to filter those tasks. You can also create campaigns from here and a couple other things, but we'll dive into tasks a little bit later. Okay, and then from the Revenue IQ page, as I mentioned on the summary, the revenue opportunities. So right here is that list that we've kind of have some suggested searches for you. So as you can see here in this one, if you're looking at any reactivation, patients that need reactivation, here is going to generate a search of 187 patients with an estimated production amount that you can generate from scheduling these patients. So if I were to click on reactivation here, it'll take me to the reactivation tab that's on the left-hand menu, and then it'll give you that 187 patients. It'll give you the filters that this is using. So last visit and then last contacted. And then if I click search, it's going to go ahead and give me that list of patients that need reactivation. So a couple things that you can do here. Let's say this is the list that you want to use, but you're not sure if you're ready to maybe send a campaign or create tasks. What you can do is click on these three dots here and save the search. We'll name it reactivation. And it looks like in this time range, it's giving us June 22 to June 2023. And you can name this whatever you want. This is just my way of kind of making it by specific by date. So I can then save this search. And then I can always come back to it and make any changes. So anytime you need to find a list, but maybe you need to edit it, or you just want to kind of have an ongoing list that you update whenever needed, you can always save any search that you make. Let's say I don't want this list anymore. I can also always delete the search. And then it's been removed from this left-hand menu. Okay. And then as you can see, we have a couple other suggestions when it comes to recall. We have incomplete crowns, incomplete restorative, so any kind of treatment searches. We also do have an ASAP list. So this ASAP list is actually going to come from your practice management software. So any patients that you save to your ASAP list there will be pulled into the ASAP list in Revenue IQ. So anytime you have an last minute opening on the schedule, you can come in and click on ASAP list, and then it will give you these filters. So it has the patient status is active, it has services scheduled as any, which you can also always add additional filters. So if you're looking for a specific service code, you can add that here. It'll give the date range. So it's looking at December of 2024 to up until January. Sometimes the date ranges can affect the searches. So if you're looking for a broader list, I recommend just removing that. As you can see, now we went from 0 patients to 39 patients. And then you can also filter the search by confirmed and unconfirmed appointments. So if you don't really care to kind of search it in that way, you can unselect those as well. And it may give you a broader list. It might just stay the same, just depends. And then you'll always just want to make sure that the ASAP check is checked. And then we'll click search. And then you'll see your list of 39 patients. Now, let's say we want to send a campaign to these 39 patients, letting them know, hey, we have appointment available Friday. The next thing that you can do here is you can either select all 39 patients or you can select individual patients. So let's expand our list here. Or let's say maybe you kind of gone through the list and you notice this person doesn't need an appointment immediately or whatever the case may be. Maybe like these here that didn't schedule that were contacted, or this one was left a message, whatever you'd like to do. So in this instance, we're going to say we want to just contact all 39 patients. So I'll click this checkbox up here and I'm going to say create campaign. It'll then take me to my custom campaigns page. And then we're going to say this is an ASAP. We're going to title ASAP list appointment and give it the date of the appointment that we're trying to put on the schedule. So for Friday, I guess I ran out of space here. December 20th. Okay. Then you can save it into a specific category. So last minute appointment is what we're trying to do. And then we have 39 patients. So because we have 39 patients, we can send an email and text. Now keep in mind when it comes to custom campaigns, there is a text limit of 500 texts a day. So if your list is larger than 500 patients, I recommend just keeping it to an email. That way everyone is guaranteed to get that message as long as they have an email in their chart. But with text, it can be a little bit more difficult. You'd have to duplicate the campaign and it gets a little tricky if you have over 500 patients. So we have 39 on this campaign, so we can select email and text. Okay, and then we'll pick our template. So we should have a couple built-in templates when it comes to last minute appointments. Let's see if we do. Okay, it might not be on here, but we can always just create our own template. So what we'll do is we'll create. So here we have a blank template. In your case, you'd obviously make this a little bit prettier, but we'll say appointment available. $12:20, 2 p.m., or whatever you'd like to say as the subject. Usually just copy and paste this into the pre-header as well. And then here you can start your message. So hello, insert the patient's first name as a placeholder so that it is addressed to them. We have an appointment available this Friday. December 20th at 2 p.m. Please call the office to schedule. And then you can add additional things. Maybe you have some images. You can do insert below and add some images. Or if you want to add the schedule appointment link, that should be fine too. However you want the patients to contact you in regards to this available appointment. And then you can change the font. You can do a couple things. We even have AI suggestions here. So something to note if you're having trouble phrasing your message. Let's say this is how we want it to look. We'll click save. We can also save it as a new template. So anytime we want to come back to an ASAP list kind of template, we can come back to it and just pick it instead of having to create it from scratch. So let's say this is the email we want. We'll save it. Same for our SMS. We'll do hello. have an appointment available, yada, yada. We'll just pretend we wrote it out. We'll save that as well. We'll name it ASAP appointment and we'll hit save. So now we've added our email and our text that the patients will receive. And then here it's selected only 10 of the 19 patients, but we can select all 19. So what we can do is we'll come here, expand our search, and then just make sure that we select all 19. We'll click save here. And then we can finalize our message. So we can send it as a draft, or we can save the draft if we need to come back and make any changes. We can send it now, or we can schedule for later. So maybe I want to send it tomorrow. I can do that as well and just select the time frame of when that message will go out. So in this instance, I'll go ahead and just send it now. We'll say yes. And then on my custom campaign list, we'll see that the ASAP list message just went out. It's going to take some time for those messages to send, but I can always click on it and then get some additional information. So it'll let me view the message that was sent. And then it'll let me view the audience here. And then as the messages are sent, you'll see it starts to tell me what was sent. So 8 texts were sent, 10 emails were sent, and then the 8 texts were delivered. And then you can also keep track of if any messages failed, if the patient opened the message, if they clicked on any links in the message. And then you can also always track messages sent. So exactly who received an email or text, the body of that message, and then the status, as well as the opened or clicked status as well. And then any messages that were not sent. So as you can see here, several patients either didn't have an email address, or the patient was opted out, or they didn't have a valid phone number. So all of that information as to any failed messages will show up here. And then if anyone books an appointment based off of that message that we sent, it'll show up on this list as well. So under appointments. So now back to RevenueIQ. On the summary page, another thing related to tasks that you'll see is the contact outcome by employee. So down here will be a good way to track your employee's progress when it comes to contacting patients and scheduling those appointments. So as you can see here, this employee, not sure how many tasks they had originally, but they've attempted outreach 7 times, and 7 times the patient didn't answer. The next thing that we can do here as well is we have a couple AI features, and one of the AI features on RevenueIQ is that it can help you do some searches. So if I click on this search with AI button, it's going to take me to this patient finder button on the left-hand side. And then up here, you can enter some instructions to guide your search. So for example, if I want to look for patients that don't have or unscheduled services, so let's say I want to search for patients that have unscheduled service code D4910 between October 2023 and October 2024. I can click Build with AI. It's thinking, and then it's going to give me a list of active patients with that service code that has not been scheduled, any provider between the date ranges that I mentioned. And then as you can see, it gives me that patient list, and then I can select search and it'll give me all of those 2,267 patients. You can give it more details. It won't work right now for me if I were to maybe ask it for like a specific provider, but you can always select that here, or you can just make this as detailed as possible. So you can always play around with this build with AI function. to kind of simplify some of the filters here, because we do have quite a few. And going back to the summary page really quick. So as I mentioned, we have these lists here that I kind of pre-built. But if you were to click on some of these here, it's going to take you to some of the built-in lists that we have here. So for search functions, so treatment, recall, reactivation, canceled appointments, and pre-appointments. If you click on these, as we can see, it's going to give you some pre-built filters to kind of guide you as to how to search for these patients that maybe need treatment or need recall, reactivation, anyone that has canceled appointments or pre-appointments. So as you can see, it's giving us these filters for treatment. For recall, it's going to give recall due patients. Reactivation is going to hone in on last visit date. Canceled appointments is going to feature the canceled appointment filter, which you can either do canceled and failed or both, depending on how you've done it in your practice management software. You can also select any patients that are not reappointed, and then the date range. Pre-appointments is going to be services completed and then services not scheduled. And then any of these you can always change. So these are just kind of starting points for these specific opportunities and searches. So anything that you want to change, you're more than welcome to do so. Like I mentioned, a lot of the time the date range can drastically change a list. So if you don't need a specific date range, you can always remove that. And as you can see, it opened up our search, or you can just change it. So say we want it smaller window, gives me less patients. So Revenue IQ is really just about kind of playing around with filters to kind of get the largest audience or the specific audience that you're looking to target. And then Patient Finder is, I think, one of the ones that I like to steer people towards if they're a little bit uncertain as to what they're looking for, or maybe you're not sure exactly what filters you're looking for. Using the build with AI would be a good feature for that as well, just to see what options it gives you, but you can always do some specific filters here. So here it'll give you the list of all filters that you can choose by. For example, one that we mentioned last week was when it comes to the end of year benefits email that goes out, and how to send that. So when it comes to something like that, you would search for the has primary insurance filter. You would leave it as yes. And then if you wanted to be more specific for a type of insurance, you can select primary insurance as a filter and then select that specific insurance. So maybe patients with Anthem. And then you'd find your list. Does anyone have a specific maybe query that you'd like to test searching for? We can always try doing that right now. Okay. Well, there's plenty of options of searches that you can do. If for any reason you run into some obstacles, you can always contact our support team. We'll be happy to guide you in what kind of search you're looking for. Another thing I wanted to mention when it comes to insurance specifically, you can also search for any like patients that are fee for service. So anyone that maybe doesn't have insurance, a good way to search for that would be to select has primary insurance and then unselect yes. And then it'll give you all of those patients. So a lot can be done from here. It's just a matter of kind of playing around with those filters to get the exact patient audience that you're looking for. The next thing that you can do with the list that you generate, so as you can see here in this example, let's get a smaller patient list. Okay, recall patients. This is a list of 3 patients that are probably overdue for recall. So if we wanted to create a task for these patients, what we can do is also select them the same way that we did for creating a custom campaign. And then we can say create tasks. It'll take us to this list where we will name the task. So it's going to be under recall, will be the task type. We can assign it to an employee so that they can conduct follow-up. And then we can set the due date for those tasks. Let me do that on this page. This list that'll work. Okay, so we can create the task. This one's going to be different. This one's a treatment one. We can assign it to our staff, and then we'll say that this is going to be due in a month from now. So about January 22nd. We'll create the task, and then the task is going to show up on our task page. Let's see here, our task was treatment. Yep. So here you see the task that we just created. If I were to click on this, it's going to then take me to the patient's overview. And then here, the employee can log any contact that they make with this patient in regard to their treatment follow-up. So if Ashish at the practice calls the patient, they can log contact. So maybe they left a message, patient was busy, called back, and now they're gonna move this due date maybe another month out. They'll log the contact and then leave the task open. Let's say they just left the message and want to close it, they can also close the task, or once they log the contact, they can also log the contact and close the task. Then in the patient's overview, you can always find the task on the main overview page. We can select view tasks here. We'll see any open tasks, and we can also view any closed tasks. So if I were to then close this task, it'll show up under closed, and then I can also always reopen the task. So in this instance, the patient hasn't scheduled, so I'll go ahead and reopen it, and then we can still see it on our tasks page and in the patient's overview. Clicking this arrow will also take you to that patient overview, in case you're wondering what that does. And then we'll go back to our list here. And then a couple other things that you can do aside from creating tasks when you do your searches in RevenueIQ is you can export the list. So if I click this, it's then going to give me an Excel sheet with the information for this patient. And then lastly, you can also apply tags and remove tags to a list of patients. So I'm trying to think of what a good one is here. Let's say if anyone uses maybe the pre-medicate messages that are part of our appointment reminder campaigns, what you can do is you'll find your, maybe under patient finder, you'll start your search for a patient list of someone that has maybe, let's do treatment. We'll do unfinished treatment. Maybe it's for some sort of root canal. Okay, we'll pretend. You can search by your service code that maybe needs the pre-medicate message. So it's not going to give me a list here. Let's do. So we'll pretend that we're finding a list of patients that need that pre-medicate tag. Once you have the list based on the filters that you search for, so for that case, it might just be any services that are scheduled that might need the pre-medicate message. You can always select the patients, click apply tags, and then it'll give you the tags that you currently have. Click save. And then on the patient's overview, it'll show me which tags the patient has. Now, thing to note, as you saw, there was like 4 options. You can always add tags from the tag management page, and that can be done from the patient overview. Or if you go to the settings and then scroll down to tag management, it'll show you the tags that you currently have, and you can add new tags. And then it's going to have the active. So if I were to toggle this off, then this pre-medicate tag wouldn't work. But if I have it active, it'll be available. It'll give me the date that this tag was added and then how many patients currently have these tags. So the tags are just a good way to pull searches for any specific patient lists that you have, certain tasks or tags on. And a couple other things, but also a lot of it comes from your practice management software already. So tags is just kind of a benefit from within PBN itself if you're looking to kind of manage it through the patient overview in PBN. Otherwise, a lot of things are already kind of set up through your practice management software and PBN. And then the last thing that you see at the bottom here on RevenueIQ is your campaigns. So you can click follow-up campaigns and it'll take us to these built-in automated campaigns, or you can review ones that you have active, or you can set up some additional ones. It'll then also give you the option to go into your custom campaigns, which is what I went over briefly a little while ago. And then it'll also give you the option to set up automatic tasks. So as you can see here, we have automatic tasks that you can create based off of canceled appointments, pre-appointments, reactivation, recall. This one is upcoming, and then this one is overdue, and then treatment. You can also always create your own task type and then add any of these filters. And then the task will follow the flow that you select here. So it'll look for example, let's do, so this upcoming recall campaign task. They've given it the description name. It's going to pull in any patients that have recall due in 30 days. It'll look for anyone that has no limit as far as when they were last contacted, and then they have no appointments within 30 days. It'll then set the due date as 1 day from creation. Follow-up 1 will go out 7 days from the day that the task was created, and then follow-up 2 will go out 21 days from the day that the task was created. And then the task will expire 30 days from the day it was created. And then also, what if the patient were to schedule any appointment, then the task would close before that 30 days. So you can set your range however you'd like. You can select any of these filters and it'll just be for the task management itself. And then that way you don't have to be monitoring or kind of creating tasks based off of custom campaigns or manually creating tasks, but you always have that option to do so as well. And then that way, at least you're kind of just keeping up with these lists of patients that need to schedule appointments, depending on what the campaign might be for. And then those tasks would automatically show up here. So in the case of this practice that we're looking at, if we were to filter by patient recall, it's going to give us everyone that's either on that upcoming recall or overdue recall list. And then we can make it a little bit more specific. And let's say maybe we want to track how Alexander is doing with his tasks. We can select his name. He doesn't have any, let's say. Okay, we want to see how April is doing with their tasks. So they have 2 tasks open. It looks like they reached out back on October. You can always click into this and see what the context of that message was. So it's blurred for now because of the demo site, but it'll give you the message that the employee left in regards to the contact with this patient. So a good way to kind of see where your employees are at in terms of contacting patients, and then as far as how the automatic tasks are working. And then one thing to note about the follow-up and custom campaigns page is it'll also be where you can manage any email templates and any text templates. But that's pretty much it as far as Revenue IQ. So it's all about lists, finding ways to maximize your production. You can then find a lot of this information too in Practice IQ, but we'll kind of go deeper dive on that once we do that webinar come early January. But does anyone have questions on Revenue IQ? Have questions on filters, searches, tags, campaigns? Okay. Well, if there are no questions, I'll be sharing this webinar via email. It'll also be on our Learning Center probably later today, if not early tomorrow. And then I will send an email with some resources as far as Revenue IQ. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. You can email me back. You can find me on the Learning Center and contact me directly through there. And then a couple other things I did want to mention in case it wasn't shown in the beginning. On our Learning Center homepage, down here at the bottom, we've got a poll going just as far as what webinars you'd like to see in the coming year. Got some topics of some popular webinars I know that we had, but anything specific that you want to ask, feel free to add that here. And then you can also find that on the events page. And then below, in case you don't know where to look for any webinars, they all live here as well on the events page. Well, I hope everyone has a happy holiday and we'll see you in the new year. Look out for some emails as far as some new features that have been released. And don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions.